magical genie and her astronaut master. On screen, I Dream of Jeannie looked like pure fun. Bright colors, slapstick chaos, and a love story that charmed millions. But behind the scenes, it was anything but magical. NBC censors fought to keep Jeannie, quote, moral. The show's creator battled network interference, and its star, Larry Hagman, was drinking on set, exploding in rage, and doing everything he could to derail production. This isn't the story of the wishes that were granted, it's a story of the secrets that were barely contained. To understand Jeannie, you need to know its creator, Sidney Sheldon. By the mid-1960s, he was already an Oscar-winning writer who had transitioned to television when it became a popular medium. Sheldon had co-created The Patty Duke Show and was writing and producing for the show in New York. He had a knack for what TV audiences wanted. In 1964, Bewitched became a runaway hit for ABC, and the rest of the television industry took notice. That same year, Screen Gems approached Sheldon and asked if he could create and produce a new show for them in Hollywood. Sidney went to work over a single weekend, dictating ideas to a secretary. What he came back with was his own twist on the magical formula, a genie who falls for an astronaut.
Oh, Master, you remember. Oh, you remembered.
He insisted the idea came purely from his imagination, but given the timing, many still believe the network saw it as NBC's answer to Bewitched. Sheldon's pitch cleverly flipped the formula. On Bewitched, Samantha tried to suppress her magic for a normal life. Jeannie had no such desire. She reveled in her power, leaving her astronaut master Tony scrambling to contain the chaos. NBC bought it instantly. With the series green light behind them, it was time to find the perfect genie. Barbara Eden never thought she fit the role as Jeannie. Rumors swirled that Sheldon wanted a tall, exotic brunette, while Eden was a petite blonde. What she didn't know was that he'd already been impressed by her performance in the motion picture The Brass Bottle, a comedy about an architect and a male genie. When Sheldon called her personally telling her, "I hear you're my genie," she was stunned. The two met for tea at the Beverly Hills Hotel where they talked for hours, but Barbara never imagined Sidney would choose her for the role. A few days later, the official word came. Barbara Eden was cast as television's most famous genie. Finding Captain Anthony Nelson was another challenge. The part called for a believable astronaut, serious enough to sell the space race setting, but also a gifted physical comedian who could survive the magical chaos Jeannie unleashed. Dozens of actors tested, including Robert Conrad, Darren McGavin, and Gary Collins. But the role ultimately went to a relatively unknown Texan with a famous mother, stage legend Mary Martin. His name was Larry Hagman. Hagman brought a manic, high-strung energy that perfectly played against Barbara Eden's serene charm. Sheldon then filled out the supporting cast. For the role of the perpetually suspicious psychiatrist, Dr. Alfred Bellows, he turned to veteran actor Hayden Rourke, a consummate professional and an old friend of Barbara Eden's. His warmth off-screen and deadpan delivery on-screen gave the audience a steady anchor. As for comic relief, Sheldon cast Bill Daly as Major Roger Haley, Tony's best friend and co-conspirator. Daly's stand-up background made him the only one who could volley Hagman's unpredictable energy back at him. Their on-screen banter, often tinged with improvisation, became some of the show's most memorable moments. With the cast in place, the bottle was about to be opened. The show was set to move into production, but not without a fight. Even before cameras rolled, NBC censors were horrified. In late 1964, they issued strict rules to preserve the show's, quote, moral tone. Barbara Eden's harem pants had to be lined with silk so her legs wouldn't show through. Writers were warned to avoid innuendo. If Jeannie offered Tony pleasures, it had better mean jewels or money, not romance. Then came one of the strangest rules in TV history. Jeannie's smoke must never spend the night in a man's bedroom. If her pink smoke slipped under Tony's door, a second shot had to show it coming back out again. Still, the premise was bold for the time. As TV Guide noted, this was the only show where an attractive unmarried girl had the free run of a bachelor's home. The pilot was filmed in black and white to save money, which was not uncommon at the time. Sheldon even offered to pay the extra $400 per episode for color, but the studio told him not to bother. They didn't expect the show to last. On September 18, 1965, I, Jeannie premiered. The first season was a modest success while establishing the formula. Jeannie's attempts to please Tony explode into chaos, while Dr. Bellows grows ever more suspicious. The chemistry between Hagman and Bill Daly was undeniable. Season 2 brought the show to life when NBC finally agreed to film in color. Jeannie now sparkled in vibrant pink and maroon, with sets and backdrops designed to evoke Florida sunshine, even though the entire series was shot in California. The brighter look gave the show its signature style. But while the visuals dazzled, the ratings actually slipped compared to the first season. Unlike its rival Bewitched, which dominated the top 20, Jeannie sailed into the middle of the pack. Popular, but never a breakout smash. Meanwhile, NBC was waging a strange battle over Barbara Eden's navel. Censors ruled that no belly button could ever be shown on air. The decree was absolute. Jeannie's harem pants had to ride high, and shots were framed to avoid the, quote, forbidden zone. Eden later joked that some of the most serious meetings on set were about how to keep her navel covered. But the battle over Barbara Eden's navel was nothing compared to the storm brewing around her co-star. While audiences adored Captain Tony Nelson, Larry Hagman was becoming increasingly difficult behind the scenes. He thought the scripts were beneath him, and in his autobiography admitted his coping mechanism: alcohol. Mornings began with large quantities of champagne, and the drinking didn't stop on set. The more he drank, the more unpredictable he became. Sometimes he would sabotage takes by babbling nonsense instead of reading lines, forcing costly resets. On one occasion, Larry didn't like a particular script, so he threw up all over the set. Then came the most infamous moment of all. One day, as a group of nuns toured the studio, Hagman grabbed an axe that a technician had left on set. He began swinging it wildly over his head, unleashing a stream of profanity so vicious it left even Barbara Eden stunned, and the visiting nuns horrified. He then hacked at cables until crew members wrestled the axe away and marched him off set. After that, visitors were no longer allowed. At the center of the chaos was Barbara Eden. She stayed the ultimate professional, keeping a polite but firm distance from Hagman's outbursts. Her sparkling performance on screen is all the more remarkable when you realize she was often acting opposite a co-star who seemed intent on sabotaging the show. Jeannie had a loyal audience, but it was never the ratings powerhouse NBC had hoped for, finishing its fourth season at number 26. By 1968, NBC was getting restless. Letters still poured in from viewers uneasy about an unmarried astronaut sharing his home with the beautiful Jeannie. And executives saw what they thought was a ratings goldmine. The only thing bigger than the will they or won't they tension was a wedding. Creator Sidney Sheldon was horrified. He argued that the entire show depended upon the secret. Tony wasn't just Jeannie's master, he was her protector, shielding her from the outside world and the Pentagon's scrutiny. A marriage, Sheldon warned, would turn Jeannie from a powerful mystery into a domesticated housewife. But NBC didn't listen. The order came down. Tony and Jeannie were getting married. The wedding episode in December 1969 drew huge ratings, but Sheldon's fears were instantly realized. Overnight, the series lost its engine. High-stakes secrecy gave way to bland domestic squabbles. Instead of hiding a Jeannie from the military, Tony was now hiding Jeannie's cooking disasters from Dr. Bellows. For Larry Hagman, it was the final insult. He felt he'd gone from playing an astronaut at the center of the space race to a generic sitcom husband. On set, he became withdrawn and cold, often shooting his scenes in silence before leaving immediately. The audience noticed too. After the initial curiosity of the wedding, ratings collapsed. The magical escape viewers once loved had turned into a toothless domestic comedy. Even high-profile guests like Sammy Davis Jr. couldn't save it. What NBC thought was a golden solution became the poison pill that killed the show. The end for I Dream of Jeannie came not with a finale, but with a whisper. The cast wrapped season 5 in the spring of 1970, fully expecting return in the fall. There was no wrap party, no farewells, and no formal word from NBC. The cancellation was so abrupt that Barbara Eden later recalled learning the news from her agent. Larry Hagman had just returned from a month-long vacation in South America. When he arrived at the studio to pick up an item from his dressing room, the security guard at the gate broke the bad news. In reality, both stars learned the truth secondhand, a sign of just how quickly NBC had moved on. But cancellation was far from the end of Jeannie's story. In syndication, the show exploded in popularity. Aired in the afternoons, it found a new generation of fans. Children drawn to the colors, slapstick, and fantasy. Like Star Trek before it, I Dream of Jeannie became far more iconic in reruns than during its original NBC run. Today, its legacy is cemented in pop culture. The theme song is instantly recognizable, the pink costume is a perennial Halloween favorite, and Barbara Eden's Jeannie remains the gold standard. A perfect mix of enchanting power, timeless grace, and mischievous innocence, delivered despite the turmoil behind the scenes. In the end, I Dream of Jeannie is a Hollywood irony, a show born of a network rivalry, sustained by chaos, and remembered as pure, magical fun. That the magic on screen still sparkles is a testament to the cast and crew who managed to bottle lightning, even if the bottle was nearly shattered from within.